Okay, right before bed here, I'm gonna uh, see what the next uh, series will be on the channel. This is the Wheel of Names. I haven't broken this out in probably more than half a year. Um, so the list of genres we have: solo alto sax, bass clarinet and marimba, uh, solo bassoon, solo cello, cello and piano, choir scores, solo clarinet, solo flute, solo guitar, piano duo and duets, toy piano, trumpet and piano. Open instrumentation is the biggest one here. Solo viola, solo violin, voice and piano, and then wind band. Sort of the criteria for putting these things up on the wheel is I have more than 3 scores of the given genre, basically. So, um, yeah, let's see what the next one is. I'm very eager. I don't want to do this tomorrow. I want to do it now. So, oh boy. Solo cello. Nice. Okay, what more can I say? Cello is the next series. Today is the first episode of our solo cello series. And the first piece is by Xuesi. It's called Damage the Black Box. This piece is for cello and electronics. It's from 2022. And I don't think I'm familiar with it, although I may have heard it live at the Splice Festival in 2022, because that would correlate. Um, the approach to notating electronics here at first is just cues without any notation. Later on in the score, you do get some notation of the electronics when it's more pitch based and the performer has to sync up with it. So it looks like we get a bit of a ostinato in the electronics at some point. The cello writing itself looks pretty interesting. We start with a couple different, I guess you could call them extended techniques, but like effects. The seagull sound effect, which is produced by an artificial harmonic, which you move down the length of the instrument in a glissando, and then also the ricochet, these ricochet triple stops, I guess you could call them. Then we have a lot of pizzicato alternating with arco, double stops, some very high register stuff, some collegno battuto stuff, some conventional playing in the high register, improvising, and ending with the seagull sound effect. I don't know what the electronics sound like. He's a media and concert composer based in LA. His doctorate in music composition from FSU. His master in music or master of music is from University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. And his Bachelor of Music was from Shanghai Conservatory of Music. His music challenges exoticism and stereotypes of Eastern music. He's been performed by a number of different orchestras and also a number of chamber ensembles, including the Arditi Quartet and Icarus Quartet. Formerly, he taught electronic music and oral skills at Black Hawk College. And interestingly, his website is divided into commercial music as well as concert music. So I'm assuming he no longer teaches and makes the majority of his money off of his commercial music work, but I'm just assuming based on what's on the website here. Here we go. 8 minutes long. There's nothing on the piece, so I don't really know when it was premiered or who's playing here. It's live electronics, interestingly, and then the image is a falling airplane that accompanies this SoundCloud recording. It looks to be hand drawn. It's an interesting drawing. I encourage you to pause the video here and listen at the link in the description. I will see you in 9 minutes with some reactions. Okay, nice. So this was an interesting piece. It was more sort of melancholic than I was expecting. The way the piece opens is very like um, it feels like something is gonna gain momentum and it's gonna quickly turn into a fast moving kind of modernist thing. It never does that. It kind of takes its time and is not meditative, but just kind of like slow and getting from one thing to the next. And then slowly you start leaving the extended technique realm, which I think is generating most of the electronic sounds. And then you get into stuff that is just very tonal sounding. Um, Modal sounding maybe would be more accurate because it's just like kind of one voice. And yeah, there's a lot of just the performer not playing at all and waiting to play. And um, I don't know how it made me feel because I'm uh, a little bit down today, but it's intriguing, you know. It didn't, um, yeah, it was sort of just not what I was expecting. I did find where I saw it live. Also, like hearing the opening of this piece, I immediately remembered seeing it live. The performer was Stephen Morato at the Splice Institute 2022. I guess this was July 2nd. Tomorrow I'm going to look at another cello and electronics piece from the same concert, actually, um, but from earlier in the concert. I don't know why I have these two scores. I guess I was interested in cello writing or something. Um, but yeah, out of all the pieces in this institute, I think I just have like the one piano piece and a couple cello pieces. Okay, so today's score is by Tanner Jones. It's a solo cello piece with electronics called Puncture Spills and Viscera Scrapes from 2022. I guess it's live electronics. Uh, we'll start there. So uh, the piece requires a mic going into an interface, a Maximus P patch from the composer, and 4-channel output labeled front left, front right, back left, back right. Cues can be advanced by pressing the spacebar on the keyboard or using a MIDI foot pedal set to, I guess, 32. Is that might be the ASCI for spacebar, like the equivalent on MIDI? I'm not sure, but yeah. And then I guess he can in his patch you can also go forward and backward through cues. There's also a drop-down menu for selecting specific cues. All of that, of course, is for rehearsal purposes. In performance, you're just going to be going forward from one cue to the next. There's also a timer in patch to sort of tell you when to more or less go to the next cue. The whole piece is 7 minutes long. Just glancing at the score, it looks like there's no notation of the electronics other than the cue number, and the last cue is cue number 10. So 10 in 7 minutes, it's not a ton, but it is live electronics. It's not like fixed media cues or anything. Um, oh yeah, before we talk about Tanner, let's just see if there's anything interesting in the performance notes for the cello. Okay, so with overpressure distortion, more or less he's like indicating scratch tone versus pitch. Um, so like quarter would be slight overpressure, half scratch would be like half, uh, yeah, like half scratch, half pitch. Mind you, this is with, I'm assuming, pressure into the string rather than like you can also produce noise from moving the bow very slowly, but that's a completely different technique. But he's more interested in the sound, obviously. Like he's characterizing the sound, which can go from 25% overpressure noise to 100% overpressure noise. He also asks for the cellist to creak with the overpressure, so stopping the bow mid-movement. Then there's some other things that are more standardized, like bowing behind the bridge, different bow positions, and the notation is proportional. And also, this is important. It seems there's a scordatura, so the lowest string is half step up. Yeah, I was really hoping to bang out this listening session in an hour today, so hopefully we can do that. Let's see. So he's born in 98. He lists here a bunch of different ensembles, and yeah, he's had music presented at the Splice Institute, like I mentioned before, but also NSEAM, New Music on the Bayou. I forgot about that one. That's a really nice. I've heard really good things about that festival, and the University of Louisville New Music Festival. And then his degrees are from Murray State University, Bachelor of Music, and University of Louisville, Masters of Music. And I guess 4 years ago, he started his doctorate at the University of Texas at Austin. No sign on his SoundCloud whether or not that's finished yet. And I'm having trouble getting to his website here. But that's pretty good enough bio. I think we get a sense of the composer from that. And I'll just link to this recording. This was not the same performer at Splice, so this must have been a different performance opportunity. Um, but yeah, I'm excited to give this a quick listen. Link in the video description. I encourage you to listen along. It's only about 8 minutes today. And hopefully this teaches you something about writing for cello and working with live electronics and the possibilities of Max MSP. Okay, yeah, this is a really good one. I can't believe I don't remember this from the festival. I must have been really overstimulated at the time. Um, yeah, this is a really, really great little piece. It's like really noisy and energetic, and I love the use of like vocal sampling. It's like sort of unclear at the beginning what is making those like hissing sounds, and then you realize towards the end of the piece that it's literally just what I assume is the composer's voice. Um, and it adds a lot to the ending of the piece, just like realizing that there's this whole other entity behind the sounds you're hearing, and it's not just the cellist. I think that's really cool. I love all the overpressure stuff. It's really gnarly. And yeah, honestly, this just made me kind of like miss being in the US. Like there's just so much talent there and so many talented composers, um and it's getting me a little bit psyched to hear. I'm going back to the States over the next few days to attend Electronic Music Festival. So Maybe I'm also just kind of hyped for that, but this is getting me more in the mood for um, hearing really talented pieces of music in this really interesting medium. So, yeah, that's that. Um, for for reasons of travel, I probably won't be recording episodes the next couple of days. But I think these first two pieces were a real good entry point into the world of cello and solo cello writing. And the plan is to just work reverse chronologically. I think there's five or six other scores I have, so it'll be pretty short. I might be done the whole series in a matter of weeks or in 1 week or so. Okay, so I came to the airport super early for my flight, so might be nice to kill an hour doing another video. So we're in the cello series. Piece today is actually going to be a Kaija Saariaho piece. She has this solo cello piece from 1996 called Spins and Spells. So this is like really start of her career, kind of like older stuff. Um, I think that's around the same time as like Licht again, which was the first Hi Saariaho episode we did. Uh, anyways, it's like, in my opinion, a more interesting period of her work. Lowest string is on B flat, and so tuned down a major second. And the D string is on C sharp, so it's tuned down a minor second. We have gradual changes in playing. The arrow is probably going to be used mostly with bow position. And for symbols for bow position, so we got like Solponticello, Malto Solpont, Soltasto, and Normal. And these trills from between regular notes and harmonics. This is something you see in the work of Gerard Grisey, specifically his piece Periode. There's a section where this is like a characteristic sound of the whole section, and it's really cool. So I'm pretty sure that's where she grabbed that technique. It's a little bit of a different effect on a solo instrument, where as Periode is more like a almost chamber ensemble, like halfway between a chamber group and a chamber orchestra. So there's like multiple strings doing that, but the advantage of having a sounding staff is you could show the scordatura, but you can also show the resulting pitches of harmonics. So, for example, this F harmonic is actually on the C sharp string, so it's like it's a sounding G sharp, right? So that first note is scordatura and a natural harmonic. So yeah, so this is a note about the commission of this piece, commissioned by the Association of Competitions of International Competitions of Paris, and the competition in particular is the sixth Rostropovich competition, named after the famous cellist Sergei Rostropovich, I think, or sorry, Mstislav Rostropovich, who I'm assuming premiered it. He died in 2007, so he was alive, definitely alive at the time of this. Link to the recording is in the video description. If you're interested in more Kaija Saariaho content, I have the following episodes on her music already. I think this is our fourth episode on her music, or maybe the fifth. Yeah, I'm excited to revisit this thing. Nice. So this was really a fun listen. It's a compact 6 minute piece as it turns out. The opening is really phenomenal, and I think this is a really good example of like well used scordatura and like perfectly notated kind of scordatura stuff. Um, this might be end up being the best piece in the cello series, I'm thinking, out of the scores I have. I forgot how interesting and vibrant it was. Obviously, it takes a really skilled performer, but yeah, I feel like if you paired this with the solo viola piece by Grise Prologue and maybe some spectral string quartets like some George Friedrich Haas, you could have a really great concert. Really cool piece of spectral repertoire. I guess there's other solo string spectral pieces, like I think Haas has a viola d'amore piece. Can't think of any violin pieces offhand, but yeah, you could definitely do a really compact, like fun solo strings recital or something. And this would have to be on it, I think. All right, so I have a huge layover here in Atlanta Airport. I'll add subtitles if it's a bit indecipherable today, but basically, I feel like there's no better time to look at another cello score, and the one today is Cellogram or Cellogram by James Tenney, which is one of his postal pieces. I think it's one of his more famous postal pieces, and you'll see why just looking at the score. We've already done a number of James Tenney episodes on the channel. Here they are listed. If you want Tenney's biography, I go over that in the first Tenney episode on the channel, um, which I think was uh, possibly one of his other postal pieces, maybe like his bass piece. Uh, okay, so this piece is pretty accessible. Like it's pretty easy to find the score. Um, it was written in August 17th, 1971. And here you have grid paper sketch with, I guess, a circle of fifths on the left side here, right? So two boxes is equal to 1/5. First from C to G, the lowest two strings of the cello. So yeah, from C to G, the two lowest strings of the cello. Then from G to D, the two other middle strings, and then D to A and A to E. So the highest note is that E4, I guess it would be. And then you have the actual like music notation at the bottom. That's more of a transcription. So you can see that certain open strings are held open, and then other strings move glissando up and down while the open string is held. Is kind of the idea, and you can see that in the sketch, right? Wherever something splits off, there's like a double stop, right? And then they converge into a unison. You get another double stop, etc. So yeah, it was written for Joel Grosnick. Let me look up this guy. Joel Grosnick is an American cellist who died in April of last year. He was born in 1941. He was a member of the Juilliard String Quartet from 1974 to 2016 and performed the great string quartet literature. Born in New Haven, Connecticut, to a family of amateur musicians. His mother was a pianist, his father a violinist. It was at Columbia University that he became more involved with contemporary composers and performed works by James Tenney, obviously, but also Roger Sessions, Elliott Carter, Charles Wuorinen, Stefan Rudpe, Milton Babbitt, Morton Subotnick, and other very famous like American composers. He recorded the complete string quartets of Beethoven, Bartok, Schoenberg, Janáček, Hindemith, and Brahms. Yeah, nothing about. Well, I can search if James Tenney is. And no, he is not mentioned in the Wikipedia on this cellist, but clearly Tenney knew him and wrote for him because this piece is dedicated to him, and it's for solo cello. Oh, also the time domain of this score is like 10 seconds per square kind of thing. 10 to 30 seconds per, I guess. Maybe it's each stretch of 4 squares? Yeah, that would make more sense. But I guess we're given the time domain for the transcription, the whole note in that, rather than the visual representation. You can kind of see how it's like imitating the image of a what would you call it? An oscilloscope. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. So it's sort of imitating the appearance of an oscilloscope. You can see that the wave shapes that are happening are sort of like sine waves. So that's something that you can visualize graphically, but you can't really visualize in music notation, right? These glissandi are not going to be, if you just read the transcription, you would not know that they were supposed to be sort of this rounded sine wave kind of shape. So I do think that the graphic component serves a purpose. And it's pretty remarkable that this thing fits on a little postcard. It's a very elaborate one. It's one of the later ones. So, yeah, I'm excited to listen to it again, and I'll let you know my thoughts. I encourage you to listen to it as well. I don't think it's a terribly long piece. I guess it depends on the performance, but it can be like 5 minutes long, I think, on the lower end. So, okay, nice. So, I think this was a really good listen. I was thinking while listening that it really reminds me of planes flying overhead or taking off. And it's really fitting that I'm listening to this at an airport. Also, the conference I was just at was in Romeoville, Illinois, and there was like a private airstrip like right behind the venue, basically. So there's like this perpetual sound of like, planes flying overhead. Uh, so yeah, oddly, it reminded me of that sort of mechanical thing. But I do think that it's more like just uh, it's an electronic music essay, but for an acoustic instrument, right? And in that sense, it really works. It's more interesting than his other postal pieces, which are more like text based, because lots of composers did text based scores in the 70s. This is a little bit more unique, and I think uh, one of the better postal pieces. Um, just because it's so obviously about electronic music and this like discrepancy between acoustic playing and like these new emerging technologies. So yeah, it's it's funny, it's witty. I think it's a good introduction to the postal pieces as a whole and James Tenney. And you know, if you've probably already heard it before if you're familiar with contemporary classical music, but hopefully this episode was a good reminder to listen to it again and appreciate Tenney's work. Today I'm exploring another uh, contemporary music score for solo cello. This one is Nomos Alpha by Greek composer Iannis Xenakis. So this is the Boozy and a Hawk score I have. I found it in a free bin of a library. Um, you'll notice that it says 175 in the corner, so I'm assuming it's quite old. And also it has what appears to be Xenakis' signature on the front. I've never gotten this authenticated, but just from a quick Google search, this is what Xenakis' signature looks like. It looks like kind of easy to fake, but I don't think it's impossible that someone in the US would have encountered Xenakis and gotten his signature. Also, I think it would, considering that the title on this version of the score is just Nomos, I would believe that Xenakis would add the alpha, just to correct the score that he's signing. So anyways, that's what I like to think happened here. It's a tabloid score in landscape orientation, and the binding is actually a piece of string, which is very strange. And yeah, the score itself isn't in the best condition. You can see here the piece was written in 1965, and on the first page there is the alpha there, whereas on the cover there's no alpha. So, but it's not the alpha symbol, it's just a superscript capital A. I've never really taken the time to look at this thing since I got it. So this work has been printed in facsimile in accordance with the composer's wishes. We have that in 2 other languages, and then we have a program note in French, English, and German. And then we have the performance notes. And then we get into the score. So why don't I just read the program note first in English. So meaning of the title, rule, law, but also in music a special particular melody and sometimes mode. Symbolic music for solo cello, possessing an extratemporal architecture based on the theory of groups of transformations in it. Use it to make the theory of sieves a theory, which annexes the congruences modulo z, and which is the result of an axiomatic theory of the universal structure of music. This work is an act of homage to the imperishable work of Aristophanes of Tarentum, musician, philosopher, and mathematician, and founder of the theory of music, of Évariste Galois, mathematician and founder of the theory of groups, and of Felix Klein, his worthy successor. Written for Siegfried Palm, it was commissioned by Hans Otte of Bremen Radio. Aristophanes, if I'm pronouncing that right, I think was a theorist who wrote about, like an ancient Greek music theorist who wrote about how to like subdivide the tetrachord. So if you're interested in microtonal music, a translation of his work might be worth looking at. But what I do know about Nomos Alpha is that it is based on this idea of cubes nested within one another and rotated, and different musical parameters are assigned to the vertices of these cubes, which then line up in different ways. But yeah, here are the performance notes. It does have quarter tones in it, so the whole tone is divided into 4 parts. Okay, the 4th string of the cello must be gut. Interesting. Short rapid glissandi are indicated by this hook symbol. A equals 440. This is sort of like the glissandi thing, but you're raising a note to create beating. So it's in the context of like playing unisons or octaves, I assume. And the piece is 15 minutes long. It's really substantial. There's the title. And yeah, it's a facsimile, basically. So this is the composer's writing. All the performance notes are down here as well, right? You can see that they're handwritten in French at the bottom of the first page of the score. At the time that this was published, this particular score, Boosey and Hawkes also published his string quartet ST 1080-262. His Morsima Amorsima, which is for piano, violin, cello, and bass. It's also subtitled ST/4-1030762. These pieces, I think, are both early, like, algorithmic pieces of his. So, like, a computer spit out the information that was transcribed, hence the numbering scheme. And the ST just means string quartet, I think, in both cases. Aonta, which is a really savage piece by Xenakis. It's one of my favorite pieces of his. Just like really intense piano writing and spatialized brass stuff. It's pretty cool. Like choreographed brass moving around the piano. Herma, we talked about on the channel. And then, of course, this piece, Nomos Alpha, which is the most recent of the 5. So, yeah, very, very cool little score, which is kind of ancient and maybe a little bit water damaged from being in my basement. Yeah, I think I'm just going to jump right into this one today. I don't want the video to be too long. I encourage you to listen in the video at the link in the video description, and I'll cut to me talking about this, my thoughts, hearing it again after a couple years with this particular score. Okay, yeah, so this is a really exciting score and performance, and I forgot a lot of these interesting moments in the piece, and the notation is also very interesting. I like how it kind of just jumps from one completely different idea to another, and over time your ears get kind of used to this world. Out of the Xenakis pieces we've listened to, I think this is the best so far. I mean, it really is a classic. Like, it's a very big piece of cello repertoire by him. One thing that I was noticing in the score was these indications in the margins. So the first one we get is in a square, we have the word beta, or the symbol beta, and then caret, and then in brackets 1113. And then as you continue along in the piece, like, this square symbol and this caret symbol only appears at the beginning of lines, and sometimes you don't get the square symbol at all. Sometimes there's a little, like, upside down L in it. Sometimes there's an alpha in it. But this caret always comes with 2 coordinates, which makes me think that this has something to do with the sort of like cube construction behind the piece that I was talking about earlier. Again, I don't know exactly how it works, but like on the next page we move to 1111. Then we change the diamond and we go to 1311. And then we get this new symbol here, which can occur in the middle of lines. It doesn't have to be at the beginning of a line. But it's like 2 coordinates that are assigned to the letter Q. So this section is marked Q8 over Q11. Then later here we have Q2 over Q6. And then a change in this coordinate here, 13, 17. So there's some sort of marking in here that explains the composer's process. And if you look at it, they're all different sizes. Here's an alpha one. E squared over L squared, and then coordinates 11, 5. So it seems very elaborate, right? It's like hard to make heads or tails out of it, but sometimes it's some indication that lasts a whole page, like the previous page. Sometimes it just is a single line. So this single line here. There's one other notation I really liked. I'm not going to like go through all of them, but yeah, the best example is probably here at the end. So he often notates tremolos especially like jeté bowing. Instead of like writing out all the note heads, he just gives you the duration, and then at these ticks, you have 32 of them, I think. And then he just says simile. So every whole note, you do 32 of those. I don't know if in this case it's jeté or if it's just regular tremolo, but yeah, he does that a lot. And then towards the end of the piece, we get these weird moments of like pizzicato melodies almost, which is a really strange thing. This is the most extensive one up here, um, which kind of reminded me of like antiquity or like some ancient Greek like melody that is foreign to our modern sensibilities of like pitch organization. So it's like some weird thing is creeping into the piece. Um, so yeah, I thought it was cool. Tomorrow we're looking at an equally important modernist cello piece. We're looking at Pression by Lachenmann. Yeah, that was Nomos Alpha. Today I'm talking about Pression for solo cello by Helmut Lachenmann, one of the most famous solo cello pieces of contemporary classical music. This might be our fourth Lachenmann episode. We've done, yeah, it's like the fourth score of his I have. So I think there's a number of different versions of this score. It's dated 1969. Here's the preface. Except for places where pitches are notated in the traditional manner, the notation of this piece does not indicate the sounds but the player's actions, i.e., at what place on the instrument the right hand and left hand should operate. The drawings in the left margin and other indications in the musical text serve as a guide. In the drawings, the upper edge corresponds to the bottom of the body of the instrument. So you can see the bridge is up here in the staff. See what I'm saying? And then the neck is down here. So it's like from the cellist's perspective down on their instrument. Yeah, and then a division line separates, or sorry, a division line represents a quarter note value if not expressly indicated otherwise. So I think he's talking about this niche here on the top. So this is this is a beat, right? This first line has 8 beats at quarter equals 66. If possible, this piece should be played by heart, or at least in such a way that the pages don't have to be turned. This score does not block the view of the cello and the bow. The cello may be electrically amplified. So the emphasis here is really on not only the sounds being created, but like visually how it appears, and you're supposed to take it all in, right, with all of your senses. So there's also scordatura here. The lowest string is a flat, so tuned down a major third. Third string is normal. Second string is down a minor second. And fourth string is down a major third. Or sorry, first string is down a major third as well. So you can see this first thing that's going on, right? You're bowing this long held tone in the middle of the, like where you would normally bow, right? And then your left hand starts making this glissandi up and down the strings, which is like kind of a harmonic glissando. And then you also, I guess you switch bowing here in beat 7, and then you add another finger, I'm thinking. I don't know if I'm blocking that. And then you stop bowing, but you continue moving your left hand up and down the strings, because that makes a sound too, right? And then you accent 2 of them with your left hand, so I'm assuming like really digging into it. But we'll see what it ends up looking like. But But yeah, that's basically the score if you've never seen it before. It's a fantastic score study. Just looking at the score while listening. It was actually one of the first scores I ever looked at in my undergrad because I was interested in extended techniques. I had one meeting with Gary Kalesha about potential teachers, and I don't know how it came up, but said I wanted to do extended techniques, and he said you should look at this composer Lachenmann. So I went straight to the library, and this was the first Lachenmann score I found. And the PDF doesn't really do it justice. It is like a massive score to look at. I think it's on 11 by 17, and there's only 3 or 4 systems per page. And yeah, they get really complex looking. The work opens with a sliding of the bow on the bridge and a sliding of the fingers of the left hand over the strings. Okay, so I was wrong. You're not bowing on the strings at first. You're bowing on the bridge. So yeah, that line is the bridge, and that's a tailpiece. Okay. Uh, yeah, and sliding the fingers of the left hand over the strings, which from the outset plunges the listener into this concrete aspect. So yeah, if you're thinking about this opening thing, which I was not describing correctly before, the you're bowing on the bridge, so this sound is quite detached from the sound being made by your left hand, actually. So it's almost like a little counterpoint is set up, where the two hands are making different sounds, saying different things, and what they're able to say is kind of defined by the physicality of the instrument, the way it's made and constructed. And I think that's sort of like a very essential idea to put forth right away is like these are the two hands that are making the piece. Link to the recording is in the video description. I'll see you in 9 minutes. If you're really familiar with this piece, I totally get it. If you just want to hear my thoughts today, and if you've never heard it before, I really encourage you to listen. It's sort of a must-listen cello piece. Okay, yeah, this was a great listen. It was like it was a bit nostalgic for me to be honest, but also it was like kind of a nice break from reality, and it was nice to set aside some time to enjoy this, I have to say. Maybe I should listen to this once a year or twice a year just to, keep myself inspired. Um, yeah, it's like the pacing is really fantastic. The way things are notated is super interesting, and the sequence of events from one technique to the next is very contrapuntal and fresh, and it's just like it's a very interesting, nice listen, and pretty hard not to like unless you have some sort of bias against certain techniques. But what he's trying to accomplish, like electronic music, but on a cello, I think he accomplishes it very well. It sounds like if I had no idea that this was possible on a cello and you just handed me a tape with the sounds, I would think it was a piece of tape music, and I think that's pretty remarkable. Of course, I've heard it enough that I recognize it, but yeah, that's all I have to say about Pression, and I highly encourage you to look at my other Lachenmann episodes. It's always a pleasure, and tomorrow is going to be, I think, the last cello episode. Today is going to be the last episode of the solo cello series, which has been a very kind of short, eclectic mix of pieces. The last score is by James Tenney. It's called Improvisation. I think it's from the 1950s. And I know very little about this one. I think it's an earlier piece of his. Yeah, there's this manuscript from 1956. I think you can freely download it online. The score itself is kind of marked up a little bit, and it's just 4 pages. Um, what are some things we can observe here? So, it looks fairly difficult to play. It's got some natural harmonics, and it switches frequently to pizzicato. There's nothing. There's like some harmonic glissandi, but nothing particularly crazy. I guess it does have a dedicatee, George Finkel. I guess this might have been a photo of him. So, I mean, maybe you can find some recordings that he's been featured on. Clearly, an American cellist who probably premiered this piece. This photograph is from 1968, so more than 10 years older than when Tenney wrote him this piece. Um, yeah, if you know anything more about George Finkel, just comment to this video. I don't think I'm gonna find anything today unless I go on to like I think this is one where you kind of have to go into a library and actually do some real research. I don't think you're gonna find anything online quickly. So yeah, let's have a listen to this piece. Recordings in the video description, and I'm gonna let you know what I think of it. Okay, yeah. So, um, yeah, my thoughts on this. That it's not a very well recorded piece. It's hard to find stuff online. There's just this recording which starts on the second line of the first page, right? So you're kind of missing the very beginning of it. Um, it's very kind of a dark and brooding piece. Much slower than I expected it to be. There's no tempo marking at the start, so yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be like a big 5 minute thing, but it is. These harmonic glissandi are kind of dead center in the piece, and I feel like that's a big climactic moment, right? You get that high E harmonic. Um, Otherwise, it's just kind of very like slow and you know, it has a modernist sensibility. I think it sounds pretty modern for 1956, but it's called improvisation, so obviously Tenney was not using a 12-tone matrix or anything to plan this out. He was more just like using his ear to make something that um, sounded modern. And yeah, might be an interesting piece to put on a program, especially if you're going through like American 1950s like modernist music. My thoughts on the whole cello series. Let me just pull up the pieces. I think there's like seven. Uh, yeah, so we had another James Tenney piece, Cellogram, the Xenakis, the Lachenmann, and Kaija Saariaho, of course, and then the two more recent American composers. I think the sort of like bulk of this was really the like Pression and Nomos Alpha. Those are the two really, really big pieces. And this Kaija Saariaho was a nice addition. I think it was okay. There's definitely a lot more interesting cello rep out there that I wasn't able to include. To be honest, my cello and piano stuff, even though I don't have as many of them, looks a little bit more interesting just glancing at it. And compared to we also have done a solo bass series. I think it was a little bit less interesting than the solo bass stuff, even though that was also like maybe only four pieces. Again, I think this is a good place to start if you're interested in contemporary cello music and if you're writing for cello. I think these scores are all a good resource for that. I feel like these, after doing the piano series, these smaller genres and groups of scores are just kind of flying by. Like there's, it's like one week I'm doing this, the next week I'm doing that. Okay, well, that streak is going to end because we have all the scores for open instrumentation. So there's about 44 of them, and a lot of them don't have recordings. So it might be more like 20 scores or something, but still, uh, that'll be a really interesting one to get through and pretty useful for people programming new music because obviously it's open instrumentation. It's going to be very flexible. So yeah, that's a world we're gonna dive into a little bit. Of course, there's like so much music for open instrumentation. I won't be able to get to all of it, but if we look at some of it, yeah, I have a bunch of weird stuff from the States, and I think most of them are under variable instrumentation. I got a ton of James M. Creed to get through, and uh, yeah, and then a bunch of James Tenney actually. So more of him. Uh, yeah, it'll be an interesting one.